Blaire,
You know,
Fuck
I don't need it.
you. Whoever did that. That's so fucked up. Like, it's just like, I can't.
do you think that was like cute?
All right.
Was that a moment for you?
I'm old enough to be your
Hey, what's up, you guys?
Yes.
Shane Dawson.
In today's video, we're gonna talk to another glorified content creator that brings absolutely nothing to the table. Welcome in here, Blaire White!
If you merely tolerated it without projectile vomiting on whatever device it is you're watching it on, make sure you subscribe.
I'm kidding. I'm not actually Shane Dawson. Sorry for the confusion. Neither am I gonna be speaking to Blaire White. First of all, she probably doesn't know who I am. And even if she did, she wouldn't talk to me after all the clowning I've done. Or maybe she would. It's not like she has any dignity to begin with. Honestly, I was a bit surprised seeing her upload a video even after The Right Opinion released his video on her. I don't know whether I'm impressed or I just feel extremely bad for her. Even though people have been dragging her by the weave here on YouTube recently, she's been able to ignore it for the most part. There's definitely no overlap in audiences, I think. Anyone who actually and genuinely cares about LGBT issues left her a long time ago. Now it's just the conservative weirdos and maybe, probably, most likely Shane Dawson. I mean, it's a fair assumption because he has made several YouTube series trying to redeem any white influencer that has done absolutely nothing to even suggest they're willing to change for the better.
Oh my god. It's okay, it's okay. I love you too, it's gonna be okay. Let's not talk about everything.
Was that a moment for you?
That's just my guess. Because even though he's made it clear that he was some sort of super fan of Blaire White in the past, because of course he is, terrible people stick together, he hasn't really mentioned her recently, so we don't know if he still stands by her. On the other hand, you're probably already aware that he hasn't been the most active online in the past year. There was something involving makeup, gay men, and Lord Voldemort for some reason that made him go underground.
You are so manipulative!
But unless you're roommates with Patrick Star, not to be confused with Jeffree Star, you've probably seen that Shane has finally made a comeback with the first video of a series titled The Haunting of Shane Dawson. If you, like me, expected it to be him properly addressing his disgusting and just terrible past that haunts him, then prepare to be disappointed, cause we're getting the same shit we got before. That's to say, overdramatic ghost hunting vlogs.
Oh my god, I'm scared, oh my god!
It's a safe topic. No one is gonna try and cancel a ghost, cause they've already been cancelled by life. I think this calls for a celebration. I think Shane deserves a slice of humble pie the size of the Empire State Building. My idea was to look back at some of his past controversies, and this is something I haven't seen enough people talk about. That's why I'm gonna do it. You probably already know that Shane has a podcast, cause that's where the question that still keeps me up at night originated. Did Shane come on his cat? The world might never know the answer to that. Don't ask questions if you're not ready for the answer. Listen, I'd love to speculate about whatever Shane may or may not have done with his cat, but that's unfortunately not what this video is about, though they did mention bestiality in the beginning, unrelated to the guest, none other than Blaire White. She is a white woman though, and you know what they say about that, haha. The only rational transgender person there is. The rest of us are just off their rockers. Can confirm I'm a straight up goofball all the time. Shane, just like the rest of Blaire White's cis viewers, said what he really likes about Blaire is that she's smart, rational, not easily triggered, like the rest of us sensitive little snowflakes, not afraid to say what's on her mind. And of course, she can take a joke.
You have a dick, right? No. Cause I'm bi. I like both. There's a lot. Okay, perfect. Okay.
That's what they all say. In truth, what they actually like about her is that she doesn't challenge their bigotry. She approves of it, which in return makes them comfortable saying stuff they wouldn't say to any other trans person, because deep down they know it's not okay, and last but not least, to use her as a human shield to protect themselves from any accusations of transphobia.
Because it looks like they're friends with you and they're friendly until they can benefit from you. Like, she brought me on her podcast because she was in all this turmoil for her transgender controversy, coming out as trans, and then she basically got what she wanted out of me. She wanted a trans person on her podcast to make it seem like she wasn't in the wrong for her whole trans controversy. Then as soon as I wasn't of use to her, she's bashing me on her TikTok.
She's the "I'm not racist, I have black friends" to trans people. It's the "I'm not transphobic, I like Blaire White," because at least she acknowledges that she's not a real woman. She's in a very unique position because she has managed to monetize her identity as a trans woman, because let's be honest, she's not that interesting. 100 other cis men and shoe on head
What the hell?
has already made 10 videos on the exact same topic before Blaire White reiterated what they said, and people ate that shit up thinking they were shoving it to the big bad SJWs that were oppressing everyone.
Welcome to the real world. If I wanted to, I could say the N-word.
I'm sorry, it's so funny to think that these people thought they were so controversial, brave, and speaking the truth that people didn't want to hear, all while having large followings that were licking their asses clean after every video they shat out, rambling about some feminist BuzzFeed quiz. Milo Stewart was literally doing what they thought they were doing. Milo was the one that actually got hate because they spoke the truth. They didn't deserve it. People didn't like that Milo knew that to make a change you need to actually challenge others' beliefs. It was threatening to them. They would rather hang out with a transgender that believed they were gonna be accepted if they laid down and rolled over for them, did a pretty little trick, put your paws up, play dead. Pleasing and compromising with oppressors isn't gonna do anything but take away your dignity. Before I continue, I just want to take a short moment to remind you to subscribe and like this video if you want to. YouTube's algorithm does nothing but punish us creators for not being cold, emotionless robots that can push out videos constantly at the expense of the quality. If you just can't stand having to wait between videos to hear about whatever the fuck is going on in my brain, I'd suggest you go follow me on Twitter @Muggemille and Mille Unfiltered. You can also support me financially through Ko-Fi if you'd like to. I finally have my top surgery consultation the 1st of April next year, and I've set up a goal on Ko-Fi in case you have the money to donate and help a brother out. It's the online equivalent of leaving a tip for street performers, if the street performer was gonna chop their chest off. What I do isn't much, but it's honest work, unlike whatever the fuck Blaire is doing, which is bringing us back to the Ice Age in terms of trans acceptance. I'm here chilling with Sid because of her. I'm chilling with the baby from Ice Age because of her. Okay, so right here in my script I put timestamps because I was gonna let you hear it for yourself to prove that I'm not putting words in their mouths. I'm serious about this, okay? I know it's not necessary because we already know their characters, and this is 100% something they would say because, to be honest, they've said much worse. But preferably, I would want to leave no room for any doubts. Unfortunately, I hadn't gotten around to download the re-upload of the episode because I'm what? An idiot, an absolute fool. You can hear my jingly boots as I walk. Of course, when I went to download it just now, it was privated because why shouldn't it be? I worked days on this script after having to scrap my previous one about another subject, so why the hell wouldn't the universe just sense that I was up to something and snap its fingers and erase any trace of the audio I need? I even checked other places, and on this one website there's a gap where the episode should be. It jumps from episode 89 straight to 91, and I have no idea what that's about. Maybe it's Shane that realized it was too controversial, or Blaire White didn't didn't want to associate with him. They both done blackface, but apparently the two of them in the same room was just too problematic. Fuck. Fortunately though, I went through the entire episode and took notes and put timestamps, though it's paraphrased, so take it with a grain of salt. I'm gonna have to explain what was said whenever I was meant to insert audio, unfortunately. If any of you managed to get your hands on a re-upload, I would definitely put it in a pinned comment along with all the initial timestamps that I reference. Right before they even brought in Blaire White, Shane and his co-host were talking about hostess that was sending him their products. One of them goes, "Where's the ding dong at?" To which Shane blurt out, "Blaire White!" That's a dick joke, by the way. It's a joke about Blaire being a trans woman. Even if she was in the room, I have a strong feeling she would probably have laughed because tee-hee, she's not like other trans women who are all crazy bitches that can't take a joke. If that's something you're okay with joking about in regards to your own body, it's not something that makes you uncomfortable, then good for you. Problem is that she validates cis people who want to make these types of jokes at the expense of trans people by confirming that those who get upset are just oversensitive. Because of these pick-me trans people, sissies like Shane Dawson are comfortable enough to make jokes about trans people's private part, you know, something that already is making a lot of us miserable in and of itself, without having some total idiot reminding us. Which in turn reinforces the idea that this is something completely okay to do. Some random ass kid that heard the ding dong joke and saw just how cool and chill Blaire was about it is gonna think they can make that joke at the next trans woman they meet when it's really not. It's not something that should be normalized, but here we have Shane praising Blaire for having so thick skin and reference one time he heard her say that us trans people shouldn't be so easily offended because we have to go through so much already, so we should be able to take it. To which she responds with something along the lines of, "If you don't have thick skin, don't transition. Don't live this lifestyle. It sounds dark to joke about, but people go into it expecting the world to transition with them." You heard that? If you don't like having to deal with dysphoria, institutionalized transphobia, poverty, depression, hate crime, discrimination, etc., then just stop being trans, you the goofball. Remember, if you're not fortunate like Blaire and can pass as cis, which is the best way to stay safe and avoid a lot of transphobia, maybe you had to cut off your family because they're not accepting of you, which in turn leads to isolation, depression, and at worst, suicidal ideation, then that's your fault for being trans, you dumb fuck. I'm sorry, but this is the most stupid take I've ever heard regarding the trans suicide rates. Trans people don't choose this life and then commit suicide because they're just sensitive, triggered little snowflakes! They're marginalized people that lost hope. Some didn't have the support system, and others couldn't access trans healthcare in time, so the last thing they need is a stranger to be insensitive and joke about their genitals. I know she was responding to Shane saying that some get triggered because someone accidentally misgendered them, and while that can be annoying, we usually don't throw a fit over a small mistake. What I assume they're actually talking about is a trans person who's at their wits' end after dealing with small insensitive comments day in and day out, which wears you down eventually. It's not fun, but yeah, no, don't be trans if you're triggered. SJW, feminazi, Nazi, cringe, nay. Speaking of choosing to be trans, it's no secret that Blaire is a bit of a gatekeeper. She girlboss, she gaslight, and she gatekeeps. Unlike people like Kalvin who accuse other trans people, mostly AFAB, that aren't 100% masculine, of being trans because it's quote-unquote trendy. Blaire White, on the other hand, is often advocating against trans femme she believes have ulterior motives, often sexually motivated.
Like an attack, and then they me, which is illegal in Canada.
Just saying.
What I actually find rather interesting with people like Blaire and Kalvin is that the boogeyman they're fighting often reflects all the transphobic beliefs regarding their own community. Trans femmes are often seen as this perv disguised as a woman to get closer to other women. We've all seen The Silence of the Lambs. Meanwhile, trans masks are these poor little women that are being groomed by the trans agenda into mutilating their fertile bodies for the sake of the trend. That irreversible damage do be hidden differently. Am I right, guys? So, at the topic of Caitlyn Jenner, Blaire dropped her scolding hot take. She basically says that she thinks Caitlyn Jenner isn't a real trans woman. Blaire thinks she's a quote-unquote crossdresser that could afford a new face and tits and is content with that. This is where it becomes clear that Blaire White truly is a two-faced bitch. Not like you'd have to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out. She just oozes of pettiness. I can smell it through the screen. It hits you like a wave every time she does a little half flip or flutters her eyelashes. Blink, blink, blink. After saying all of that, she still went out to dinner with Caitlyn Jenner. In this Instagram post, she said, "Dinner with Caitlyn Jenner, sparkly heart. Had an amazing time getting to know each other. Thanks for a night to remember, Kate." My favorite comment is by Old Harry Man saying, "Didn't she kill someone with her car?" Like, that's what we should be focusing on. I mean, yeah, someone died, and that's tragic, but that's not what this is about, I think. When people asked her to educate herself beyond the most stressful thing about being a woman is to choose what to wear in the morning. When I was a woman, I just wore jeans and some washed out t-shirt. Get it together, ma'am. Yeah, I wonder what they're talking about. Probably the rest of us peasant transgenderlings struggling to afford medical transition. Highly doubt anything productive could ever come out of that conversation. Shane also said that even though he understands that some people take longer to come out, Caitlyn coming out after 60 was just a little bit odd to him. You know, it's not as if something like that would probably most likely ruin her career as an athlete. It's not like some people never come out and take their gender identity to their grave because the world is just not that accepting. It's not like that's something that ever happens, am I right, guys? Haha. I genuinely wish more people understood that coming out early in life can sometimes be a privilege, not an indicator that you're not actually trans if you didn't come out at 5. That being said, Shane starts out by stating, "It's become sort of a trend," and before he even finished his sentence, Blaire goes, yup, because of course she would. Shane goes on to say that it's sort of become trendy to have a trans kid. He just can't fathom that a kid could possibly understand their own gender at that age, and he's scared that as soon as a girl shows any sign of being interested in anything but pink, cooking, being a good wife, and Barbie, they're gonna put her on the pill, I don't know what pill, and bada bing bada boom, the kid is trans. Where has all the tomboys gone? Where are the lesbians? They're transing the lesbians. He himself used to put towels on his head as a kid and pretend to be girls, and can't help but wonder if his mom would have started pushing the trans agenda if he was growing up in this day and age.
That was kind of racist, wasn't it? I didn't mean it to be. Oops. Whatever, I already said it, can't take it back.
Believe it or not, but once upon a time I was against young kids transitioning. Granted, I didn't make a big deal out of it. I wasn't advocating against it. It was just one of those uneducated opinions you didn't give much thought to. But if you were asked about it, you would be like, I don't know, I don't think they're ready to make such a big decision. You know what changed my mind though? Educating myself. Some kid isn't gonna be put on testosterone and go through all the surgeries. None of the procedures they can access is permanent, and all the positives seriously outweigh the negatives when it comes to puberty blockers. It's simply stalling for time so they can make an educated decision when they're older. If they choose to not transition, they can simply go off puberty blockers and go through their natural puberty just later. And if they're sure that they're actually trans and that this is something they want to go through with, guess what? Then the puberty blockers prevented the permanent changes that they would have had to try to undo in the future with surgeries, while some changes you just simply can't do anything at all about, and you'll simply have to learn to cope with it. When it comes to even younger kids that haven't reached puberty yet, it's even less of a big deal. All you have to do is give them a haircut, a new name, different pronouns, maybe new clothes. All of this is things you would do for a cis kid because people do it all the time, but it's only an issue because our identities has been so politicized. In my ideal world, we would stop caring about stupid shit that doesn't matter and have no lasting effects that you could regret in the future. Like, oh no, you started calling Kelly Kyle instead. However might they recover in the future if they realize they're not trans? This is gonna haunt them forever. I mean, on one hand, I get it, it's not completely without consequences. Unfortunately, when a kid transitions, there's a lot of backlash from the public, and in a lot of cases they lose friends and even family members. Of course, I'm not oblivious to the social consequences growing up, but I think it's kind of backwards to instead expect the kid to conform. Could you imagine if we asked gay kids to stop being openly gay because it will get them bullied? Oftentimes it's called abuse to let your kid be themselves because what if they regret it in the future? So what? I know going back is associated with a lot of shame, which is unfortunate because it shouldn't be. Expecting gender and its expression to always stay solid harms both trans and cis people because it doesn't make room for experimentation. It literally should be a non-issue to try different pronouns, new names, and gender expressions. It's just language, it's just pieces of fabric, it's just hair. Why you gotta shit your own pants about it? This path is not glamorous, it's more trouble than it's worth sometimes. Okay, no, I'm not gonna say that. I mean, it's a lot of trouble, but it's worth it. But it's the right path if you truly value your kid's happiness and mental well-being above what others think of you. It's a misconception that parents nowadays will convince their kid that they're trans as soon as they show any sign of gender variance. Have you met kids? A lot of them don't follow strict gender norms and no one bats an eye. One of my younger cousin, who was a boy mind you, would dress up as Pippi Longstockings and pretend to be her, and everyone just went along with it. He also had a baby doll that he would pretend to have given birth to, and at no point anyone questioned his gender because he never insisted that he was actually a girl. There lies the difference. I suggest you go watch the HBO documentary Transhood for more insight. It follows 4 different trans kids for 5 years and also show how the parents go about it. Unsurprising to anyone with a brain, at no point did the parents push this upon the kids. Some kid didn't play princess only for the mom to go, "Oh my god, you're a lovely little trans girl, let's get you estrogen girl." Most of them were parents with a kid that insisted that they were a little boy or a little girl or something in between, and them just thinking their kid was being stupid and confused and went, "Haha, no you're not silly." Your average person is unfortunately not prepared to be a parent of a trans kid, and a lot of them are confused for a very, very long time, and convinced it's just a phase or a game they're playing. When they're pushed enough to seek help because it's interfering with their everyday life, a lot of them have to face the truth. Which is that if you want a happy and healthy kid, you're gonna have to accept their identity and let them lead the way and show you who they truly are, while you do your best to keep them safe. By that I mean keep them safe from bigots, not forcing them to repress their transness. Not even Blaire White can deny the existence of trans kids. She outright stated that trans kids exist because she was one of them. obviously. And while she also acknowledges that her life would have probably been so much better if she got to transition when she was younger, she just doesn't think we should allow kids to do so because some will be satisfied and others don't, and we just can't open the floodgates. I honestly don't know what to tell you. Blaire White uses her own mouth to say that her life would be so much better, and she's far from an isolated incident. It's fair to say that most trans people would be so much happier and better off if they never had to go through the wrong initial puberty. We have the means to prevent that, and as I've already said, at that age, the medical intervention is easily reversible. Still, she advocates against that, something that could prevent a lot of future mental health issues and even suicide, because of her unfounded fear that they're gonna start transing our kids for fun. It's already difficult enough for me as a fully grown adult to transition, so why on earth do you think they would be quick to throw themselves onto kids and perform irreversible treatments? What you have is anecdotal evidence at best, which isn't enough to make a decision that will haunt literally every trans kid for the rest of their life. She might actually believe the garbage she's spewing, but in my humble opinion, it's fear-mongering, trying to win brownie points from the transphobes that haven't gone full mask off. If she actually wanted what's best for the trans kids, she would read more about it, look at studies, talk to professionals. Instead, she's just running with what Karen next door said, going, well, it's just common sense. She's repeating what they want to hear, and people like Shane Dawson will make a podcast preaching about how smart she is, how she knows her shit, does her research, and owns the libs. Which is kinda ironic now in hindsight. They recorded this podcast back at the peak of Blaire White's YouTube career, you know, before she lost all credibility. I mean, yeah, she kinda did her research with the Janae Marie Croc video, but that counts for shit all if you're gonna crop text to suit your agenda. Pretty sure most of us are already aware of what happened at this point, so there's no reason for me to reiterate what's already been said. If you don't know, then please go watch the Angela Wallace or the Right Opinions video about her. In a nutshell, she was caught red-handed spreading misinformation that was either poorly researched or just straight up lies. Even funnier is that in this episode, Blaire describes this incident of her along with a bunch of other special snowflakes getting all worked up, shitting their pants after seeing a sign from a Whole Foods that asks that you don't use gendered language while talking to servers or customers. I thought it was just words. Why are you so triggered? Snowflake. Liberal. Genuinely, why are you so upset that one place asks you not to use gendered language? Why is it so important to you that you're gonna throw a tantrum about it? Naturally, Blaire White tweeted at the Whole Foods about it, and that's how she found out that the sign didn't belong to the Whole Foods grocery store, but rather a cafe in Australia. That's embarrassing. So much for research, am I right, guys? As much as I'd love to continue poking fun at these two clowns, we would have to be here all day, and I don't know about you, but I like doing more with my life than just scripting, recording, and editing. Plus, you'd have to wait even longer for me to finish it. I think it's better for us to cut it short. Still, I think this was interesting and fun to make. Maybe I'll make more in the future, if this is a success, that is. You could let me know in the comments if you want me to cover another episode of Shane and Friends, unless he actually scrubbed it all from the internet. Otherwise, there's other podcasts I could tour a new one for. That's all. See you in my next video. Bye! Psych! You thought that was the end of the video just because I said so? I bet you look real stupid now, cause I've got more to say. Only while editing this, I found a video of Blaire kind of addressing her previous friendship with Shane Dawson, sorta disowning him for the videos that surfaced during his cancellation, and credit where credit is due. when you're friends with someone, it's really difficult to condemn them even when you know they're in the wrong. She did the right thing. I don't think I said anything in this video to suggest they're still having each other's back, but I want to make this super clear. That's not at all what I'm saying. This is simply commentary about an old podcast episode, nothing about their current status or whatever. That's all. Also, don't harass them on my part. Obviously, don't harass them at all. Okay, that's all I had to say. For real this time. Bye.